We're on our way to the Matt's Place Spokane house where we're going to meet Ryan, and he's going to show us some of the technology that's in that home that allows him to have more independence and dignity while he's living with ALS.
Teresa's here. My favorite person. Hi, Theresa.
Hi, Ryan.
You want in? Hi.
Let's go check it out. We're here today with Ryan, and we're going to talk to him a little bit about his experience of living with ALS, utilizing technology, and what home automation really is. So, Ryan, thanks for letting us come in here and crash your space.
Of course.
So, about what year were you diagnosed with ALS?
2012, 2013, somewhere in there.
Okay, so it's been over 10 years. 10 years.
Yeah.
So as the disease has progressed, you were living in an apartment complex, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about what that space was like for you.
Small. It was somewhat restrictive. It was set up to be, the minimum that a landlord has to provide for
Right.
accessibility. So, you're still limited in many ways.
And we've talked about this before, where the American Disabilities Act, that is a kind of a parameter of the bare minimum, like you said. So there's grab bars by the toilet, maybe the sink was a little higher in the bathroom and the doors were a little wider, but really not a good situation to live in with a progressive disease like ALS. There's a lot more needs that are necessary to help keep the person safe as well as the caregiver safe in transfers and things like that. So you moved into this home over a year ago now.
Yep.
What has been the difference between the two living environments?
Oh, God, so many. I think first is that family is able to come out and visit with me over a 3-day week, 10-day period, hang out,
Yeah.
and even celebrate holidays together, where that just wasn't possible. And before we would have to plan a couple-hour period where I was feeling good and they were available. So we were kind of on this limited opportunity to share time with each other. Whereas now, family and friends come out, turn the house over to them. They, cook their meals. I can take off and do things that I need to do. My day isn't disrupted in any kind of way. And then all of it contributes to just a more time.
Yeah.
Quality time and quantity time spent with each other.
Yeah. I think it's really important. I think that's been one of the most humbling experiences for me, was learning that you were able to have family here for the holidays, because their homes weren't accessible. And I don't think we think about that enough, of how isolated our loved ones get with diseases like this, because the families don't have accessible housing either. So they can't go visit them, for the day or what have you. So quality of life is spending time with our loved ones and getting to do the things we want to do, right? Now, I know from experience of being a caregiver to my husband for almost 10 years, it's hard mentally to be the person that is arranging and itching and scratching and adjusting, and also taking care of the household events that need to happen, like dishes and mopping and cleaning, on top of all the other things. So what are some features here that you're able to do independently that you don't need to ask somebody for help for?
It simply just control the environment, the temperature, for what? What I'm constantly changing the temperature throughout the day. Whether it's cooler at night or hotter during the day. I don't have to ask someone to do it. I can, you know, um, control my bedroom on my own. Over my eye gaze. I can just look at a screen and take the temperature down 2 degrees or increase the fan
And you can do the
3
blinds
speeds.
as well and the lights.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the blinds, the lights. Turn on and off the TV. Channel surf just like anyone else channel surfs.
Yeah.
I can web surf just like anyone else web surfs. We're all glued to our screens all day, and being disabled like I am, I can still do those things.
Well, and I know that when you moved in here and you were doing this beforehand, but now it looks like you've got quite the setup here because you help your college buddies with fantasy football and fantasy baseball teams, right? Managing that. Um, with all the technology today, we have to figure out what fits our needs. With ALS, that's a little unique, absolutely. But once you learn kind of what the things you want to manage are, then we can set the steps in place to help make that a reality. Now, home environment is exactly what that means. It's the environment in the home that we can create systems like dashboards, routines, and scenes so that he's in control of when he wants the lights to turn on, when he wants the lights to turn off. But it's not just voice activating and having to remember the voice commands. Now it's even the dashboard that's set up. He can look outside and see the camera system. So if the UPS driver stops by with a package, they can hit the doorbell and he can let them in or not let somebody in if he doesn't want to. He can undeadbolt the door and open it. So families that are arriving or visitors of any kind, he's given this independence to control what's happening around him as well, even though his mobility is so compromised with ALS. That's independence, that's improving quality of life, that's giving autonomy and as much dignity back to the person with this disease as possible. So when we talk about these features, that's some of the things we're talking about. But right now the sky's the limit. There's a lot of things that we can automate with scenes and routines and dashboards. So we're gonna let Ryan show us some of the features here, and then we're gonna bring in Len, and Len's gonna talk to us about kind of how it was done, and is it hard, is it scary, or is there a learning curve? So we're gonna talk about that next.
Yeah, so I can operate any program on the computer with the quad stick or my eye gaze. And what I'm using it for is the Home Assistant program that controls all the smart devices in the house. So
All the environmental controls are controlled through your home assistant.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep. So
Did you find that this was easy to learn how to do once it was all put together?
yeah, it's pretty straightforward because it, kind of works similar to other applications that we work with every day, in on our cell phones and stuff.
So
kind of
would
a
you say
similar
this
format.
is similar to like using a cell phone and going to an app? This is just as easy once you get used to it.
Probably even easier.
Okay. I think a lot of families get overwhelmed with trying to figure out all the things with this disease, and then the idea of adding home automation or home environmental controls seems overwhelming. And what we're trying to do is show that it's actually, once you kind of have a plan and you know what you want to control, then it's easy to learn how to get it installed and start practicing using it. So we talked a little bit about the security, doors, temperature control, lighting, your blinds, but what do you do for fun? Like besides watching TV, what else can you do?
So I'm on my PC watching NFL, ESPN, or playing fantasy football, talking with buddies, over different chats, different groups I'm in with my friends, just BSing back and forth, just like a normal person. and I can interact with all those things via the quad stick, via Home Assistant, via my Tobii Dynavox up here, either through quad stick or eye gaze. I'm mostly watching football, watching baseball.
Yeah, you're a big
Yeah.
sports fan.
Yeah, big
So,
sports guy.
do you feel like having this set up has kept you kind of connected with people you might have lost touch with before in the past?
For sure. No doubt. I mean, most of my friends are also sports fans, so we keep in touch.
What does it mean for you mentally to have access to these things without having to ask a caregiver or somebody to constantly be getting you where you want it to be?
It's relaxing and soothing. I mean, there's so many things about this disease that are stressful. So anytime you can just sit back and, do something that fits your mood is relaxing.
Yeah, it's less than the stress on having to manage the day in and day out all the time, right?
Yeah, being able to do little things like let people into the gate, my dog out, change the temperature, allows, my caregivers to kind of focus on other things, which relieves my stress. I don't have to worry about, if certain things are.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. From somebody that's a caregiver perspective, it's not easy to be somebody who's adjusting and doing every couple of minutes, 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
So giving you access to control things around you also relieves some of that stressfulness on the caregiver. We're human, right? Both sides of the coin of this, pals and cows. We're human and we lose our patience and we get irritated.
Yeah.
So allowing you to have as much independence allows us to have more independence around us as well. And it's hard to have those conversations, I think, but when we can show that this actually improves quality of life, utilizing the right types of technologies, it improves quality of life for both sides of the coin here, right? So I'm glad you were able to show us a little bit about what your setup is like.
Yeah.
Len is going to be here shortly, and we're going to talk to him a little bit about how he put this together, his experience being the person who helped design it and get it set up for you, but also he himself is also a caregiver to somebody with ALS. So two different perspectives on what they want for independence and how he did it. So looking forward to hearing what he has to say. So I'm very appreciative of Len Ledford here today. He's going to share a little bit with us about home automation, environmental controls. It's a complex conversation and it can get really stressful and anxiety can increase really rapidly. So we're going to break down a little bit this complex conversation about what would improve quality of life, give dignity back to the person with the disease, and help alleviate some of the caregiver everyday requirements that can be given back to the person that is living with this disease. Len's wife was diagnosed almost 5 years ago with ALS, and she was affected with bulbar ALS first. So her experience is different than my husband's, which is different than Ryan's. So again, we talked about how different ALS can be and how to plan for it. But Len, let's talk a little bit about how when you were new in the ALS diagnosis, what did technology mean to you through this process?
So I've been working in IT for about the last 12 years, and I know that using technology to help us with quality of life is a good thing. And there were things that we could do that I began to look at down the road that may become handy, right? And so the first things that we began to look at in the house was how to turn lights on and off, how to have lights turn on when it was dark so we can see to get in the house. Control the temperatures and things like that were just real simple to get started with. In the beginning, my wife, Natalie, was not very interested in using technology. She was not going to have to need that or go down that path. But as the disease progressed, we found that it became more and more necessary to help her with a quality of life.
So the first thing we would do, right, is if you were meeting with a brand new family on this journey, what are some of the questions we would do for an assessment for them to determine what their budget is, where they want that money to go towards for automations and environmental controls that would be the biggest impact for them?
So I think we do an assessment and speak to the family about what's going to be important as they move forward, right? Some people want to do like Ryan does, fantasy football. My wife, Natalie, she likes to write music and listen to music or watch TV and listen to audiobooks. So finding systems that were good, that would work around where we are today was what we did. It's hard to believe that, like Ryan uses the device to control his computer. My wife does everything just with her eyes through the eye gaze technology. So finding an environment that you could control was pretty important from the beginning, because voice commands were not going to be able to be used.
Right. So with people with bulbar ALS, the first thing that they're going to lose is the ability to communicate. So being able to say, Alexa, turn on bedroom light doesn't work. So we have to use a different. So, see?
Yes.
So.
And the other thing with that is that my wife lost her voice, but she didn't need a 9-pound device to carry around to be able to communicate. So it was learning technologies that she could use as simple as a text-to-speech application on her iPhone, where she could type that in, and it'd be able to speak for her when people couldn't understand her.
Yeah.
So it was finding other uses of technology to help us give quality of life, not just things like turning on the lights, turning up the temperature, turning down the temperature.
So just to recap really quick, we want to talk a little bit about environmental controls and what the problem is that we're trying to solve. So talk to me a little bit about what are some of the problems we're trying to solve.
So, we've noticed through the patient assessment, there's some commonality of what people are going to want to do and how they're going to want to control their environment. And people like to be able to open and close the blinds to let light in and out, or change it as the daylight goes to dark. We want to turn lights on and off when it gets dark and turn them off before it's too late at night. But also temperature controls. And I know Ryan uses a blanket, so he likes to be able to turn the blanket on and off throughout the night. Natalie uses the bidet. Everybody likes to watch TV, so turning the TV on and off and being able to change the channel. And while that sounds pretty easy with a remote controlled, think about all the menus you go through on a TV to go through a smart TV to find the app and then go through the app for a TV show to watch.
Yeah, there's a lot of steps.
So by doing that, we're able to then grow a system. And if we look at the patient and we look at the house, right? So we started in earlier shows talking about, well, we need to make sure the bathroom's good enough to be able to get in and get around. We need to be able to get a 400-pound wheelchair in and out of the front door. And, the same things begin to happen. And speaking of the front door, we use a company now that has an automatic front door opener. So either using a Toby or a dog tag or a remote controlled, we can, Ryan can open and control his doors to get in and out of the house. So that helps us a lot. Being able to use this technology to see who's at a gate or who's at a door to decide to let them in and out of your home is very advantageous, right?
So let's pretend we have a newly diagnosed ALS family, and they are coming to us and they're saying, okay, we've remodeled the home for accessibility, but now we want to be able to give our person with ALS, our pals, their ability to control their environments. What's the problem that we're trying to solve?
So at this point, we've defined the tasks that we want to solve with technology. And now we're getting down to how. We know the what, now it's how. So hopefully when we're doing the home remodel, we have an idea of what we're going to need to do technology-wise and infrastructure-wise to make the system work.
Okay.
Some of our devices are going to need electrical outlets near them. We're going to need to pull low-voltage cabling to run a better Wi-Fi system. And we're going to need low-voltage systems to be able to operate garage door openers or gate openers.
Or there's security cameras.
Or
wired in.
Security cameras and doorbells, and we need to supply power to these items. So when we do the home remodel, this will be a good time to know what our home automation system may look like going forward and what we're going, and try to anticipate that so we have the contractor on site just once.
Yeah.
And we do less work to the house. But the next set of problems we solve is how are we going to control all of these different devices? Will we be using something like a Tobii Dynavox eye gaze? And that's going to come in the flavor of either a Windows device or an Apple iOS device.
Okay.
But the problem we face today is all of our apps that we integrate with are going to be either an Android app or an iOS app, an Apple app. So now that we're in the Android and Apple world, our Tobii Dynavox Windows may not work as well. And then who wants to go between 9 different apps to do the 9 different things, right? That's easy for me on my phone because I have the ability to move and do. But if I have to make these changes using my eyes or my voice and then have to remember all the voice commands, this could be rather overwhelming, right? As I get older, I don't remember as much as I used to. So we need to find a controller to control all of this. And how does that work? In our environments, we chose a product called Home Assistant, and I chose it because it was open source and because it supported the most number of things, and I wasn't locked into one ecosystem, either like an Amazon ecosystem or a Google ecosystem or a Samsung.
So for those of us who are not as good as information technology like you are, I would consider the hub where all the conversations are happening. Is that fair?
Fair.
To say? So I want to be able to go to that hub and control the doors, the lights, the blinds, the television, the thermostat, the water, if we wanted to turn the water on and off, because that's even a possibility now. Blankets, bidets, whatever it is we want to control is inside that hub.
Correct. Okay. And we use that hub to build what's called a dashboard. Okay. And our end user, the person that's using it, whether it's on a tablet that's hung on the wall or whether it's on that person's device, they will then build dashboards, and from that dashboard, they will push their virtual buttons to control the devices.
And they can set up routines. So if they know they get up at 6 a.m. every morning and they want Alexa to give them a good morning, turn the lights on and the blinds to go up at one time every morning and every evening, that's a routine?
Yes.
Okay. And those can be preset?
Yes.
To help everybody out as well?
Yep. My favorite routine is to turn on the porch lights when it gets dark and turn them off at midnight. I have one button to turn off every light every night. Yes. So,
yeah, and I can see how it's easier if you're not opening 9 different apps for 9 different applications and having to go into all of those. Just go into one dashboard and being able to click on what you need. It's way faster. So there's a lot of products on the market. How do you determine what's going to be usable in that hub and what isn't? What would you do?
That's a good point. I think we just looked it up. It was around 140,000 products today are supported by Amazon, and that's just an overwhelming number of things. The process that I used is I looked at what we needed to do, and then I went to YouTube of all places, and where could I find reviews and integrations of what's out there, and what do people say works and doesn't work. And so I kind of followed the reviews to do that. I started off at a more complex system where I had a hub, and I'm using a product called Home Assistant as my controller to bring everything in one device. Okay. So we could build the dashboards. But not everyone's going to start there. Some people are going to start simple. They just need to automate 1 or 2 things. And the easiest way to do that may be through Amazon Alexa or Google Home or Apple Home.
A lot of families today have voice assistants like Amazon Alexa or Google Home, and those are your voice assistants. I've told families in the past, and correct me if I'm wrong, if all they wanted to do was their light switches, and they have a smartphone and an Alexa, Amazon Alexa, they could go to Home Depot or Lowe's, pick up a Bluetooth switch, outlet switch, install that, and then connect it through Wi-Fi, and then it's working. Pretty simple fix for lights. It doesn't have to be really expensive. It doesn't have to be really complex. But once we start adding things, that's where the complexity comes from.
Right. And as we begin to lose our ability to use our hands or our fingers, and we're going down to just using our eyes or other types of alternative controls, then having a system that works together makes life much easier.
And I would also say having a system that doesn't rely on the Wi-Fi to be running. So an intranet system versus an internet system.
Correct. So when we start using products that are in the cloud, then we have to have an internet connection that's running. And sometimes our internet goes out. Or we lose power, and we need these things to still work. So
main spectrum.
One of the things that we like to talk about is as we know, we need to have a backup generator to run a ventilator, right? Or to keep our wheelchair charged. So we need battery backups maybe to keep our system running for very important things that we have. And think about that we're not fully reliant upon the internet to do everything we need to do in our home. We need to be concerned also about our different technologies, that the technologies we have work together and they don't interfere with each other.
So that they're compatible with whatever devices you're using. So if you have a device that is only Android, but you're going through Apple products, they're not going to talk to each other as well, right?
Correct.
So those are some of the questions you need to be looking at when you're looking at these applications that you want to add to your dashboard.
Yeah, today we buy into ecosystems. Are you buying the Samsung smart things, or we buying Apple HomeKit, or Google or Amazon, and which system's going to work the best for us over time
Right.
to stay in our home?
I definitely think one of the things we talked about, which was a really important point to make, was if you're in the middle of remodeling for accessibility, maybe consider some of these aspects you might want to add, maybe even later. But having the electrician only be out there one time for all of this is going to be a lot cheaper in the long run. So definitely consider this as you are doing your remodels.
Yeah, the infrastructure to support the system will be necessary. Ryan uses the cameras around the house to be able to work. He uses his computer all day, every day. So having these things hardwired helps keep the system running cleanly.
Yeah.
But the big thing we haven't talked about is we have to make sure whatever we buy, we can figure out how to use, we can figure out how to install, and the care and feeding. So we have a new puppy. We know it's going to take a lot of work, and we got to make sure we keep it up and running. And
Once you get the puppy trained, then it's kind of an easy routine, right? Once you kind of get how it works.
my experience, my system's been running almost 4 years now, and knocking on wood, I haven't had any major issues to solve.
Okay.
Ryan's system's been running for about the last 6 months, and he's been able to work through whatever issues he had.
Okay.
But the nice thing is we chose products that were supported, that we could find reviews on, we could find how-to videos on, looking at YouTube and other blog sites. So once we know, we may spend more money for a popular name brand item, but that support over the next 5 years is really what's going to keep us going.
What do you mean by support, just in case there's any question about that? You mean tech support, meaning you're installing it and you have a question, or it didn't upload the way it was supposed to, or you have to reboot it.
Yeah.
Those are the problems that they can help walk you through.
Correct.
Okay.
Or you can at least look at videos and see how other people have solved that problem.
So do you feel like having these automations throughout your home has given your wife more independence while you're also still managing childcare and working and her needs and stuff? Has it reduced her asking because she's got that independence to do it herself?
Yes. So we just had an incident where her device quit charging. And so we didn't realize how much she relied on the system until she didn't have it for a day or two. And at that point, the importance of the system really showed itself. We all go to the bathroom 4 or 5 times a day. So not having the bidet, not being able to change the channel on the TV.
Not being able to communicate what she needs.
And most importantly, not being able to communicate because she's nonverbal at this point.
Right.
So having the basic needs to be able to be cared for and to help care for her was a surprise at how much we had become dependent upon the system that 3 years ago, neither one of us really wanted to be involved with.
Yeah. I would say if families have limited budgets, accessibility in and out of the home is key. That's priority. 2, communication, the ability to communicate. And 3, then implementing the tools to improve quality of life and independence.
So going back to when we remodel our home, one of the things we may want to control is all the lighting in our house. And this would be a great time to go have all your light switches replaced with something that would go back into a control or using one of the technologies that are out there.
Something that's compatible to the hub and the apps that you want to use for controlling.
Correct.
Okay. Got it.
You know, the other things, the security cameras, a doorbell where package delivery happens. We all have a cardboard habit nowadays. So when that cardboard shows up on our front porch, we want to know it's there and know that someone's delivered it, right? And so being able to push a video doorbell to let somebody know what's going on, I think is pretty important. So yes, Theresa, I think the earlier on that we decide what our plan is and do this assessment will make more sense for us as we go down in the future and save us money.
Yeah.
I think at the same time as we look at what home remodels we are going to do, would be a really good time to look at what's possible and what we may want in our home.
Yeah.
So one of the good things that I noticed, or one of the things that's happened that I've seen, is someone that had a whole lot of window blinds. And those window blinds had to be charged by batteries once a week, which if you're in a wheelchair, that's kind of tough to go charge your window blinds.
Very convenient.
So that planning didn't go so well. But other things were planned very, very well. The light switches were put in when we built the house. We had the right lighting that was in the house. We had the right kind of thermostats and controls that were able to be brought into the system. So knowing what's possible, knowing what's out there can make a big difference in how successful or how expensive the system will turn out in the long run. I don't always like to look at where you may end up and plan for the end, but in some ways, building a system that can be added onto as time goes along is a smart way to go.
Okay. I like that. You know, we always are so grateful and so humbled by so many people's expertise. So I just want to say thank you to Len for explaining this to us a little bit. If you have questions, please put them in the comments of the video, and I'm happy to engage with Len. And if you wanted to share your email with us and get a hold of us, reach out to us. We're happy to help answer questions along the way. And I want to thank Ryan for opening his home to us and letting us come in and kind of see the cool things that he's got and finding ways that we can keep helping add to it. And we appreciate his willingness to share what this experience has been like for him so that we can continue to improve as we go along as well. And I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to ALS Finding a Cure, We Care. It is truly because of their grant and their support that we've been able to create these videos. And always a shout out to Tribe Media. Thank you guys for your professionalism and your willingness to help us. So thank you.